ABL Florida is actually really honored that we've had this opportunity to share, to support these young people coming to share their stories. ABL Florida is here for you, for your families, for families who are interested in information or who've chosen a listening and spoken language option. So remember that we are a resource. We're also here to support the professional community. We will have a listening and spoken language education track at the 2020 FEDHH, the Florida Association of Speech-Language Pathologists and Audiologists, at their convention, which is, I believe, the last weekend in June in Orlando next year. So we'll get more information out, but we'll have a listening and spoken language track there. So thank you so much for the opportunity to say a few words, and we're really excited to hear from our future.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for helping me today. All right, so we have Broward County students here. We have Alivia Brower. Raise your hand. Thank you. We have McLaughlin. We have Victor Nelson and Kayla Rivers. I'm going to hand it on off to them.
Okay, so I'm going to just start real quick. I'm Allyson Dudich from Broward County. I'm a DHH itinerant teacher, specializing in transition. And when I started working transition with these students, specifically the itinerant students, I kind of looked to see where the gaps were and what was missing. And transition was kind of looking like, you know, are they using their agenda appropriately? Are they keeping up with their grades and checking their grades? And I felt that we really needed to look more holistically at each student, and we were working on inferencing and vocabulary and comprehension skills. But when you look at these itinerant students that are mostly isolated in schools by themselves, and you have a middle school student who is hiding her hearing aids and wearing her hair down so that nobody knows she's the DHH student, can't really just work on vocabulary. And when I have a student who is suppressing some anger and having some identity issues, and there's a bit of bullying going on, I can't really worry yet about comprehension strategies. And when I have a student who is like, school is not my thing, I'm not going to make it to college, like, you know, I can't come in and, you know, ask for my ideas today. So I think the key was connections, being connected to the students, really knowing who they are, what they're struggling with, their identity, what's going on at home, what's going on around them. And I think that's the big difference that it made. Also, connecting them to themselves and their own identity, connecting them to their culture and their environment, connecting them to each other, which is a big thing that we've done in our county, is bringing them together for different activities so they can meet each other and know each other and have similar obstacles and challenges and successes with each other and talk about those things, and connecting them to the resources that are available, sending them to EYF over the summer, bringing them together for Marine Lab, bringing them together for ACT strategies, sending them to all the camps that are available that, you know, sometimes we're not even getting those kids there, and it makes such a huge difference to all of them. So I just wanted to start with that. I'm going to let them all introduce themselves because they have a lot to say individually and together as a group. So I'm going to turn it over, and we are starting with, who are you starting with? Kayla.
Hello everybody, my name is Kayla Rivers, and I'm a junior. I attend a public school, and I grew up attending public school, and I went to MSCD, but I wasn't happy there. And in my elementary school, I was in a DHH class, and now I'm in mainstream classes with an interpreter. And one of the differences is I can approach a teacher and tell them about my rights and tell them that I need to get good grades with these accommodations. There's also a group of deaf students that I can socialize with there. At home, communication is pretty easy because my mom's deaf, but I do have challenges still, but I overcome that by writing and figuring out how to communicate. I've gone on several the communication was pretty easy. There was a challenge because they don't sign what I do, but we wrote with each other. And really, communicating with people that don't sign, hearing people, is easy for me. You know, I write and just try to do the best I can. So that's me.
My name is Victor. I go to Monarch High School. I've been attending ever since I was little. I found me. You know what's funny? Every time everybody says talk about me, something like a boy job interview, I kind of freeze out a little bit because, you know, I'm nervous. But elementary is when I found out when I was going to bed for that. And so it wasn't an easy transition, especially into middle school. But I've learned to self-advocate for myself, so by the time I got into high school, it went more easier, more smooth. And so I guess that's what I'm up here to talk about, how I self-advocate for myself. And so right now, I guess I've been going pretty good, right? I grew up whole. I speak many different languages, but whole and a little bit sound, just a little bit. Let's see. Can I talk about presentation? How do I do this?
It's fine, I'm teacher of the year. Fall on my face.
Yeah, that's me. And so this is a presentation that I made for my IEP on how to better explain to my teachers what kind of student I am, how they can help me, what my needs and accommodations are. This explains exactly what my inner loss is and how they can better understand it. My strengths and weaknesses in the classroom and whatsoever. How it affects me, my parents, and our concerns. You can help me in the classroom. That's a big one. My goals and objectives in high school and beyond high school. My accommodations. And that's all, folks.
High School. I now go to Broward College. If it wasn't for all the great guidance and help that Allyson Dudich over here, teacher of the year, the process would have been easy. I had amazing teachers in high school. They helped me with a lot. Some of the resources that they helped me with, like transitioning in high school, is like applying for scholarships, going to disability offices and getting my accommodations and all that. And I also met with like my advisor, who also helped me give me good classes and all to graduate college, or help classes. And that's it. Oh yeah, and I'm majoring in hospitality, and I think that's a good field, you know. And I would like to learn some sign language because that's a good language to learn in hospitality industry. So, nice to hear. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alivia Brower. I'm a 12th grader at Marty Stone Douglas. I've been mainstream my entire life. Oh, they're nervous, aren't we? Okay. I've been mainstream my entire life. I'm oral. I know a little bit of sign language. I taught myself, and I have some deaf and hard of hearing friends I've met through the events that Miss Allyson and the other itinerant teachers have organized. I learned the alphabet when I was in preschool, forgot it. Deaf friend taught me again a couple years ago, and since then I've been completely obsessed with the language. I recently got my Flagler College. I'm super excited to be going there. I'm in love with that school, and I am going to be majoring in deaf and deaf education. If it wasn't because of Miss Allyson and all of these programs that I was a part of, I would never know how passionate I could be about something. But I'm so passionate about the deaf and hard of hearing community. I love being a part of it, and I want to continue being a part of it my entire life. I don't know if I necessarily want to be a teacher. I know I want to work in some way, shape, or form helping people in this community, whether it's advocating for kids in school who aren't getting the accommodations they need, or sitting down and counseling families who are trying to accept having a new kid who is deaf or hard of hearing and they don't know how to go about it or where to start. And I just want to, having the experiences I have, I don't know, I want to be there for other people like Miss Allyson and the other teachers have been there for me, so that I wouldn't be who I am today without it. Now, I'm going to be doing a special little thing. To give you some background, I'm in spoken word club at my school. It's basically slam poetry. And this past year, in the spring, I competed on a team in a statewide competition out of 40 schools and 600 poets. I'm very proud to say that our hard work paid off and we ended up winning #1 in the state. And now I have the honor of, I would like to actually do my piece for you. Okay. I'm doing the whole shebang, introduction and all, right? Hi, my name is Alivia Brower. I'm from Marjorsville and Douglas High School, and my piece. I've grown up with a unique perspective, viewing the world where hearing and hard of hearing parts of me meet. I've learned that I cannot separate them because they are both a part of me. Growing up outside of the norms, I've learned to observe in others the things that I myself cannot observe. And every time I think I've learned all that I'm missing out on, someone teaches me that most people can hear birds in a tree. People can hear birds in the tree. That's amazing. And the ticking of a watch placed 20 feet away in a quiet room, and their instincts will kick in if they hear the leaves crunching behind them on their walk home alone. I have to rely mostly on what I can see. I'm used to facial cues, and I've become adept at lip reading to make communication a little easier. I analyze my surroundings to make sure I'm not missing anything important or something that could hurt me. I'm used to seeing that I'm missing out. Sleepovers are a prime example when the lights go up and it's time for the late night deep conversations and everyone's whispering. So I don't know what's going on. I go on autopilot, reverts to nodding my head, or I just go to sleep because there's no point in staying awake. I get too sad. No one notices. If they do, they don't care enough to change anything, and the night goes on without me. I don't think there will ever be a day where it hurts any less, remembering that a lot of the time, even the people that care about me don't care if I'm not up to speed, or they find my hearing loss a nuisance. It always hurts when someone says, "Ugh, never mind." I observe how much well-hearing people take for granted. I observe how happy they are whispering to each other. I observe how a lot of the time I'm not worth the 0.0001% of their energy it takes to repeat themselves so that I'm not left in the dark. It's hard enough being deaf without also being blind. I've learned to observe in others the things that I myself do not experience. And every time I think I've learned all that I'm grateful for, I wonder why my deaf friend who I'm sharing the bathroom with keeps barging in on me. Then I realize she doesn't know what talking is. She's never heard the birds or the passage of time. Well, I can't hear because it's not clear or loud enough. She will never hear. She relies only on what she sees and the gut feeling in her stomach that something is wrong around her. And I'm sure she feels like she's missing out even more. And though she struggles more than I do, she wouldn't change it if she could. And I wouldn't either. Her and I, my deaf and hard of hearing friends, are learning every day how to embrace this part of ourselves. Because, well, it's not easy being different. We aren't alone. We have a beautiful community that gets us, that feels like home to us. And oh my God, it's such a freeing feeling. And our own language, to show the world that while sometimes we need to ask for help, we can do anything hearing people can, because while our world is quiet, we're notorious for being loud, because when no one else will be loud enough for us to hear, we will be. I showed up with a unique perspective, viewing the world for the hearing and hard of hearing parts of me meet. For the hearing and hard of hearing parts of me meet, I've learned that I cannot separate them, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
And with that, so we are opening up for questions so that you all have time to ask these students anything that you would like to ask. I know that there were some questions already shared that are in, do we have those? Sure. Some of you already submitted some questions, but any other questions that you have, feel free. I will answer the ones that were already posted first.
Hello? Okay. So one of the questions is for Alivia, and it was, they want to know how your journey went from not accepting your hearing loss to this lovely piece we just saw. How did that happen?
Well, it was definitely a journey. That's the way to put it. When I was diagnosed with my loss, I was 4 or 5 years old, and I didn't see anything out of the blue with it. I was like, okay, this is, I have a hearing loss, and I'm getting these cool little gadgets that fit on my ears. I'm like a robot now. That's cool. And I was excited about it. I remember the day I got them, I went to school, and I was like showing off, like, check out these new things, look at me, I have hearing aids, I'm so cool. I was very eager to accept that, my loss. And I was that way for a couple of years, and then towards middle school, the older you get, the more judgmental people get. So in middle school, I started to become a bit more insecure about that. I noticed that people kind of just referred to me as the hearing aid girl, and I was like, I don't really want to be that. Like Miss Allyson said, I became very insecure in that time period, and wore my hair down, to cover my hearing aids, didn't want anyone to know I had them. If someone so much as even mentioned me having a hearing loss, I would burst into tears, like just start sobbing. I did not want anyone to know. And it stayed like that for a bit. And then my sophomore year is when I went on a trip with some of these dudes to Alabama, the school for the deaf there, and it was a Vex Robotics conference, and that was my first introduction to the deaf and hard of hearing community. I had gone from being the only kid I knew with a loss my entire school career to suddenly being surrounded by so many people like myself, and it was something I'd never experienced before, and it was life-changing. It like opened my eyes. I remember sobbing the last day because I didn't want to go home. I loved it so much. And since then, whenever Allison's like, oh, we have a new thing coming up, I'm like, put me in, I want to go. So I love immersing myself in the community, and it's, since then it's been seeing how so many people thrive with even a greater loss than I do, and like, it's just really inspiring, and I am very proud of this part of myself now, and I have no problem talking about it, educating people like I did back then. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but I'm very proud of where I am today.
So the next question is for everybody. How do you deal with the attention being drawn to your hearing level because you have assistive technology or support like an FM or interpreter drawing attention to you in classes? What did teachers do, or what could they have done better to help support you while you're accessing your education?
Can you repeat the question?
Volunteer, you don't know what the question is. How did you deal with attention being drawn to you because you had hearing aids or you were giving your teacher an FM microphone to use in class? And what the teachers have done to better support you with that?
Well, I grew up attending mainstream schools all my life. And so being the only one of my kind in the classroom was always isolated. And it's always a new experience because each year, every class, you would always have to explain to kids, well, kids who can hear, you would always have to explain to them, like, that's the help too, like the advent of the teacher may say, oh yeah, everybody sees this, you know, that's it, this is predicted, he can't hear these human beings, so this is to help him. Over time, you learn to kind of accept that, because you can't change reality, but adapt to it. But the way that it could be made easier is that the internet will always be good, it will always be a part of you. But the FM system, they could be discreet with it, you know, they could have it, but not draw any attention to it, you know. And so, like, let the kids have something to wonder about. If they want to educate themselves about it, they can come up to me and, or any other kid and ask a question, you know. But that's all I can really think of.
I mean, yeah, when I was like growing up in school, I went to Broward Elementary, and it was like home of the hard of hearing deaf kids. And I was in a classroom, and in the middle there was like a huge, like a microphone sort of, and I would have like a pen, and I would give it to the teacher, and like I would do it every time like she was talking, and so like the kids would just see me standing up, giving them the pen, and they'll always ask questions like, oh, what's that for? What's that thing for? It's like to help me hear, but like they don't understand that. So they always thought like I just was being funny, but like, I couldn't really hear them. So, and then now I have my own FM system, so it's like perfect because I turn it on and I can hear perfectly, or it'll amplify the sound for me. So I don't really have to get up and give them anything anymore. But, I mean, I accepted it now, so it's like if I need to do something and ask them, I can do it now. So.
I mainly got like microphones and load accommodations in elementary school. And you know, like I mentioned before early on, I never minded it. The only thing that bothered me was when the teacher was wearing the microphone and then she walked too close to the speaker and then there was that loud like shriek. So that was annoying. But yeah, I actually have a funny story because like they were saying, some attention was drawn to me because either the teacher would tell the kids like, oh, we're in this microphone for Olivia, or I would, I think in first grade, the school tried to give me their own pair that was I had to go put on every day before class started. They didn't like them. So the kids would ask a lot of questions. And one funny story I had is this girl asked me what my hearing aids were, or like what are those? I explained what they were. She moved schools the next year, and then years later, I met her again in 9th grade, and she told me, oh my God, I remember you. You told me what hearing aids were, and then I got my own pair in the 6th grade. And now we're really good friends, and she's like one of the few people I know at the school who has hearing aids, and we have all sorts of inside jokes. We get it. But yeah, I didn't mind answering questions when kids had them back in the day. So, I'm dealing with the issues now. However, some of my teachers don't know how to turn on closed captions, and I have days where I'm feeling confident, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go up and ask them to turn on the captions, or maybe show them how, and then I have days where I'm just gonna sit here and try and follow, and that never works, but I always do it. So I've been struggling in those classes where my teacher just does not know how to put on the closed captions, but we're working on it. So I have faith that I will be fine.
I used to use hearing aids in elementary school, and the teachers would use the FM. But the hearing aids would bother me, so I would turn the batteries off. And then a few years later, middle school, I decided I was not going to use them because they don't work for me. So I then just, using the interpreter, and sometimes I'll get frustrated with the teacher and they won't talk to me and approach me. They'll talk more to the hearing student. But I've learned to approach them and talk to them about it, and that's how I've grown.
Another question we had was, do you feel that your experiences from middle through high school really prepared you to enter elementary and middle school, really prepared you to be successful in high school?
When I was in middle school, I didn't have a lot of deaf peers in classes with me, and I wasn't really used to it. When I got into high school, I felt ready, and there were a lot of changes, and there were deaf students and hearing students who socialized together. And I had more deaf students in classes with me than I did in middle school, so that helped me feel more ready in high school.
Yes, it did. Yeah, because I went to like a private school in the beginning, and we had to like get our own FM system and hearing aids. But when I switched to Tamarack, like they provided me that stuff, so it like helped me a lot. And then going into middle school, same thing. Like they helped me with all the accommodations to get to high school. They helped me with the hearing aids. They helped me with the FM systems. Like they helped me prepare to get to high school. And when I went to high school, it was like all the same. Like they provided me it. They got the FM system, like accommodations. Like if I ever needed help, I could go down to like the ESC office and like see how I could get that help. And then now for college, like it's helped me too because I had to go to disability offices, and then the same accommodation I had in high school, I use it in college. So it's just perfect.
The resources that I've received helped a lot.
Yeah.
I can't talk.
Can hear it?
Yeah, okay. The resources that I've received in elementary, well, nobody can ever really be prepared to go from elementary into middle school.
Pause for a moment of pictures of my baby.
That's what I was saying. I mean, no kid can ever truly be prepared from going into elementary into middle school. You know, middle school is tough, and it's especially tough when you're the only deaf kid there, or even a deaf kid just in general. The resources do help a lot, but I was very ignorant in middle school. I refused to wear my hearing aids. I refused to accept any services, and that only hurt me more than it benefited me. And so, around the 8th grade, it kind of hit me, like, the reality was really clear. Like, why would I hurt myself based on how I think, when I think of what others think of me, you know? And so, when I started accepting the resources more, in high school, I would have Miss Allyson come visit me like almost every week, you know. I would be like, Miss Allyson, you coming in today? She would be like, I'm not scheduled to come in today, you know. I'd be like, you're coming in today, right? But she's helped me a lot, you know. The resources, they really do help. They teach you how to like help yourself more, how to ease into society with your disability. It really teaches you a lot, you know, and I wish that I could have understood that in middle school more and got into trouble, but that didn't go anywhere at all. And so, the resources do help a lot.
Have a room full of teachers who want to learn how to do better. What is one thing all the teachers in this room need to know so that they can do better for their students?
I know some of you are hearing and maybe don't understand everything about deaf culture, but you need to use captions and other accommodations and not focus so much on the hearing students, but understand what deaf students need. And, you know, I'm nervous. So if a kid is asking something, to do that instead of just say, oh, try to do your best with it, just try to do it, you know, give me the resources that I need, and don't just say, you know, try your best, because I need those.
Yeah, I think she pretty much speaks for all of us. Just like have the teachers know what our accommodations are, like understand us. Like, you know, we might need to have things repeated. You know, we might need extra time. So we're not kind of like bug you guys. We just want to, like, you know, we need our help, or we need the help. So
we need to advocate for our team. We need to make sure we're on a level playing field with the other students. I really admire Victor's PowerPoint, and I definitely need to start doing those because that was fantastic. But yeah, I pretty much feel.
Anyone else?
See, that's the thing, like, my hearing, ever since birth, it will always deteriorate. So there will be a day when I get older where all the hearing that I have, or very little hearing that I have in my right ear, will diminish completely. And so I rely very heavily on the breathing, but the breathing can only get me so far. And so that's why I have a lot of things repeated.
Question was, one thing you can tell your teachers that they can do better.
Well, honestly, teaching, alright, in my experience, all my teachers have never experienced what it's like to work and teach with a deaf kid, or how to really help them out. But if one thing I could say is, you know, like, don't be quick to show lack of compassion towards the kid. You know, they may need more time. Thank you. I know, it's a lot of kids that they get, but it's only one deaf kid that they have, you know, maybe 1 or 2, and they may have like 150 kids that they see every day on a daily basis. I would tell them to take about 5 minutes out of their day, you know, really research what it's like for a deaf kid or a hard of hearing kid to really go through life, you know, because it's a whole different experience, and they may not be able to understand it, but it's like you're playing on 2 different sides of a game, really. It's not like you're playing the same game, and I don't think they understand that. And yeah, I would just have to really like 5 minutes out of the day just to understand like what kind of world it really is for us.
Anybody have questions from the audience? Other questions?
Okay, so a lot of you guys were talking about how by the time you got to middle school or high school, you may be the only deaf or hard of hearing kid in your classes. So, and a lot of you were talking too, like at middle school level then, how you weren't asking for your accommodations, you weren't necessarily advocating, you weren't, you know, speaking up because you were going through that process of acceptance and knowing how you fit in and all of that, right? So, what do we tell our kids now? What would you, if you could go back to your 12-year-old you, what do you think that you would tell yourself, or that you would tell other 6th, 7th grade students that are in the same situation to have them buy into that sooner? Because I hear from all of you guys that you kind of wish that you had used some of those resources more when you were at that level. Or what could we do to help you do that too?
So basically the question is, what would I tell my younger self? me that the way that I had in middle school was not the way to go, and that it would only solve problems temporarily and not for the long term. What I would go back and tell myself is that when you grow up, you're gonna have a big, like, luscious head of hair, so nobody's not gonna be able to see your aliens. No, really, what I tell myself in my younger years, if I could go back in time, I would tell myself that it's gonna be tough. You may not be able to avoid every fight in middle school, because most of the fights are not under verbal. But if you could basically just go on the same path that I've always taken, like, if I could go back and tell myself one thing, I would tell myself that it gets better. Eventually you become a popular loner, but you realize the importance of that term, like, you may know everybody, you become popular, like, but you keep to yourself, because once you, like, right now, I consider myself a popular loner. I don't care what anybody thinks, like, if it's positive, sure, I would take that criticism, I would take that into consideration. If it's negative, I would now, like middle school, I would react to that. But now, I would just, like, take that into mind, not showing the emotion, and just keep it moving, And so what I would tell myself, my younger self, is basically that it gets better. To definitely accept the support way earlier than I did, because that definitely helped a lot. But yeah, that's all.
I think I heard Victor say something about kind of fitting into a mold, and go off of that, or maybe I did not. I was very upset in middle school that I did not fit into this mold that everyone else did. Like, how it was just, I was mad that I wasn't like everyone else, to put it like that. And I think if I could go back in time and tell myself anything, it's just, you don't have to fit in mold, and no one is perfect, whether there are physical disabilities, invisible ones. No one has it easy, and no one is perfect. And to hold yourself to that standard, you're human, and that's an unrealistic standard to set for yourself. So I wish I had, I don't know, I feel like maybe if someone had really sat me down and told me, hey, it's okay not to be the picture perfect student that you see in the movies. Maybe that could have been helpful. Maybe I could have embraced that myself a little quicker.
I would also tell myself to listen to adults more. So serious. Like, if you listen to, like, adults have been there. You guys are like, you played that game already. You're beyond that. Like, the kids that you're growing up with now, they can only see what's in front of them, not beyond them. And so that definitely helped a lot. Like, when I started listening to adults more than kids, it gave me an advantage. It gave me an edge. So I would appear to come off more advanced than I usually am when I'm repeating whatever an older person said to me, or wiser. I don't like using older. You gotta get mad at that. But really, yeah, just listen to the adults more, because the kids, they will break you down if you let them. You can't let them do that. But listen to the adults more. That I would definitely tell myself that.
Everybody said something, and like what I was gonna say, I was just gonna say like stand up for yourself. So, like when I was younger, I used to get picked on saying like, oh, why do you have that in your ear? What is that? And I tried it on. It's like, no, it's mine. And like when I was younger, I was like hearing is like, what is it? Like, I didn't know how to react to that, but now I'll be like, yeah, it's my hearing aids. What's up? Like, is there a problem? Like, and then like, so like my hearing aids the mold is red, so they always think like I have blood in my ears. So like, when they ask that, I'm like, oh, for real? Oh man, so my hearing aids, my bad. I always just like joke around with them now, but yeah, always like, I would say stick up for yourself on like what you have and, be proud of it.
I actually let someone try on my hearing aids once. There were music playing in them too, so they tried them on and just started dancing around the room, but I'm not letting anyone ever try them again.
Other questions?
So, you're not the only one, Victor. So I used to be an itinerant into middle school and high school. Now I changed to elementary K through 2. So other than stealing you guys and letting you come in my classroom, what's something that I can go back to my class on Monday and tell them or teach to them, or maybe even something that you wish had been told to you when you were in elementary school?
Give me a second. So basically, you repeat the question. Sorry.
What would you tell your elementary school self?
Oh, my elementary school self?
What can teachers here bring back to their elementary school students from your experience?
Elementary, I was very proud of my learning.
I was going to say that, like, they're going back to their little ones on Monday. What can they tell them now? What can they teach them that will help them move forward?
Teach them to love themselves first, because nobody knows. Say it again. Teach them to be proud and love themselves first, because it'll be hard for somebody else to show them that. Because they know that they will always get love from their parents, but if you teach them that, so always love themselves first and be proud of themselves, so that when they go on in life, they won't have much. All the negative criticism won't have much effect on them, because they know themselves first before anybody else can tell them that they know themselves. So yeah, keep them, let themselves have pride, listen to adults, and yeah, it gets better. It really does get better. It's all in mind and how they can progress and advance. Yeah.
And make sure that make sure to let them know that you're there for them. So if you're helping with the hearing kid and you see them struggling, they don't want to say anything, just walk over there and be like, oh, do you need any help? Because sometimes they're afraid to ask because, they're like that kid that is standing out and they don't want to stand out. So if that if you walk over there, they'll feel, oh, okay, they care about them, I can talk to them. So just don't,
School is great about teaching you that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but I think it would be super helpful for kids to learn young, how to advocate for themselves, life skills, how to learn how to accept themselves. I don't know, it shouldn't have to be this whole long, hard process to get to be okay with yourself. I think definitely if you can give them sources now like that to develop, self-love. Where did that come from? I heard a ding. Okay. Life skills. Yeah, I think, we need to know more than mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Thank you.
communication is key. If you can teach them to talk about their feelings, or teach them that whatever's on their mind, always get it out, like talk with somebody, you know, because that definitely helps. Like, communication is key, always, and teach them to be strong, always stand up for themselves. It doesn't always have to resort to violence. It can just be, you know, like not letting hate get to your mind. Communication is good. And before we ask any more questions, I believe she has a question.
I have a question. Over here.
That voice is not there.
Okay, I'll just stand here. Well, my question to you is, I understand that each of you grew up without meeting any other deaf children. Did I understand that correctly? I don't think you did, but the rest of you, okay. So suppose that you were in elementary school and you met another deaf or hard of hearing student and were able to interact with them. Perhaps having some exposure to sign and seeing another kid with a hearing aid might make a difference in the way that you were raised in school, as far as the struggles go, struggling with self-identity. I understand that each of you didn't really find that until high school, but I'm wondering that if it would make a difference if you met other deaf and hard of hearing kids in elementary school and middle school, if that would have made a difference.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, the Marine Lab is cool. Like, I don't know. I think it's awesome that there are so many projects, events going on that are taking older kids, like getting them together with other people in the community. I don't know if there's a lot of those kind of things happening with younger kids. Maybe. It might just not be that. Well, yeah, I did not have access to that when I was younger. But yeah, definitely, if I had another kid with hearing aids in my kindergarten or elementary school, that would have been amazing.
That would have definitely been helpful a lot. You know, it wouldn't have made me feel like an outsider. It would have taught me that I was the only one in this by myself. Like, even today, it's still crazy to me that they have all this stuff, you know, the people with hearing loss and people who are deaf. Because when you grow up, you don't grow up thinking like, okay, there's like people, there's programs and so many things, and then when it comes to stuff like this or events, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, they really have everything, and like, kind of makes us feel like we're playing on the same field, but most people realize that more later than earlier. And so, to answer your question, it would definitely be beneficial, definitely a lot, 100%, no doubt about that.
My mom is deaf, so, you know, we communicate well with each other. So if I go into a school and there's deaf kids there, they'll ask me if my mom's deaf, and I'll tell them, yeah. And they'll think that's not fair because my parents here and they want their parents to sign or be deaf. You know, and I tell them to, you know, hang out with more deaf people and hang out with people who have deaf parents, and you wouldn't feel alone. When you're socializing with deaf people, you're not left out, you know, and everybody is a human, whether they're deaf, hard of hearing, or hearing, but socializing with other deaf people, that's why I love hanging out with this community.
All right, y'all, we are out of time. I know, I'm so sorry. This is such amazing. Thank you guys so
so much for coming.
Yeah,